yourself a suit and tie and get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
Thank you, Tex. Tex Perkins knows of what he sings. You need a good lawyer, and so we have here David Whiting, well-known Melbourne solicitor who dispenses free legal advice. Hello, David.
Hello, Virginia.
So you got your shot?
I did, Friday afternoon. I promised you Thursday, but it turned out being Friday afternoon. At the time I was looking, the walk-in times at Jeff Shed had blown out from 10 minutes to 90.
Ooh.
And I went up to the exhibition buildings and was in and out within the hour, including the 15-minute observation after the jab.
How'd you feel?
We're doing it absolutely fine. Over the next couple of days, a little bit of muscle soreness at the site, but no headaches, no nausea, no aches and pains.
Excellent. And you've got your date for number 2?
You don't fix the date, but it's got to be more than 3 months after. So
3 months now?
Yeah.
That's
the
strange,
Pfizer is 2 weeks.
Yes.
But I think the AstraZeneca, well, they told me it was 3 months. So they're telling me I should book for August. So August I will book for.
All right. Well done you.
Thank you.
Next week is Law Week.
It is indeed. And there's an extraordinary program for Law Week. Lawweek.net.au is the website for a bit of browsing.
You say an extraordinary program. Is there singing and dancing?
Only if you've been invited, Virginia, and I'm not sure you have. So, but there were. I picked a couple that looked interesting. State Library and Consumer Affairs is putting on an event at the State Library in relation to the new rental laws. So, whether you're a landlord or a tenant, that's worth a look at.
That's a really useful one. I've had so many discussions with people who are aware that things have changed, but they don't really know how.
Well, when you consider that the change piece of legislation is 400 pages, is there any reason why they would be expected to know? Interesting things. You can have coffee with a cop in Shepparton or Tatura or
That's
New Merca.
nice.
So, yeah, that's nice.
Who buys?
It's at the library, so, presumably no raised voices at the libraries. So that's interesting. The bit that... Remember, we've talked about legislation that turns some convictions into spent convictions.
Yes.
So you don't need to disclose them on a job application, those kinds of things.
Visa application to the US?
Oh, no, that's the US law.
Oh.
That is still a required...
So they still want to know about a spent conviction in this country?
Let's be really honest. We want to know if you've got a spent conviction somewhere else when you apply for a visa.
Yeah,
so the rules are the same. But the RMIT, law school at the RMIT is putting on an online seminar about spent convictions, because I can imagine there's a whole lot of people who may be interested in spent convictions but don't really want to be the person who asks the question face to face. So lawweek.net.au, lots of really interesting stuff, even from a lawyer's perspective.
Are you doing anything as part of it?
No, nobody rang.
We'll sort
That's
that for
okay.
next week. We have got some free lines. I've got 3 free lines only. Quick, hurry, run to the phone, and hopefully David can help you out. David, please meet David. David is calling in from Central Victoria. David, good morning. What's happening?
There you go.
Hi.
I want to know what my chances are of getting $10,000 back from an ex-girlfriend. I lent the money to her when she needed it, just verbally. I sold the house.
You actually handed over the cash, so yes. But the
no.
agreement pursuant...
Okay, go on.
Sorry?
Go on.
No. How did you lend the money just verbally?
No. She had the cash. She spent the money.
No. Is there any... There's no exchange of emails?
We exchange text messages every now and again when I ask her, how's it going? Because any chance I can get the money back.
And do you get an answer that says...
Usually it was, first of all, it was, I think about it all the time, and lately it was, don't hassle me, you're not going to get it, because I haven't got it.
I would have thought how long were you together, David?
2 years.
As a boyfriend, girlfriend, or were you domestic partners?
No, boyfriend, girlfriend.
Okay, good. Then the answer would be you could issue a magistrate's court summons to recover the $10,000. But if she hasn't got it, what are you then going to do?
I know some bikies.
Can we
and
not?
You're clearly ringing the wrong people, David.
I mean, I know you're making it as a gag, but I'm not laughing.
I know somebody who did it, but David,
no one's laughing, mate. No one's laughing. No.
Go on in.
No, that's David. You need to be satisfied at the end of the day before you spend money going to the magistrates' court to get a judgment that you will ultimately be able to get the money at the end of the day. And I suppose my view would be, I don't know how much money you've got. I don't know how significant the $10,000 is to you. Probably significant. But I just don't know that I would be putting a great deal more time and effort into it unless I knew that at the end of the day the $10,000 would be forthcoming.
Paul is joining us now in Box Hill. Hi, Paul.
Hi, David. I just had a question. The company I worked for merged with another company, and when they merged, they essentially said, your job's not available anymore, so we're going to give you this other role, which they said at the time was of an equivalent level or responsibility. Now, 10 months into the role, it's clearly evident that it's been a significant demotion in responsibility and et cetera. And I'm just trying to work out where I stand from a redundancy perspective, whether I should have been offered a redundancy or not based on that sort of outcome. My salary hasn't changed as a result of the change in role.
And is it the same employer or did the other company take over yours? So has your payroll come from a different crowd now?
It technically is still coming from the same organisation, but it will eventually be from a new employer in the near future.
Oh, so they've changed your role?
Yes, substantially.
Right.
Yeah.
Paul, I would need to have a look in the circumstances that you've described, and I'll also next week talk about redundancy in the event that was the other company that took you over. So I'll address both of those issues for next week.
Okay, so I've got some homework there, so do tune in again. Hopefully we can get an answer for you next week. James in Eltham, what's happening in your neck of the woods?
Oh, it's a bit smelly out here.
Oh, dear.
We're on 20 acres, so it's a big block. On one boundary, there's a house with a dilapidated fence, a boundary fence that we want to replace, and it's got its septic runoff trenches running under the fence into our property.
Does that mean that the septic went in before when they were both on the one title?
Probably.
James, I would probably... And what do you want fixed?
Well, we want to replace the fence, and he hasn't responded to the fencing notices, so I know we can just do that. But we want to block that septic runoff at the boundary.
Let's split this in two. In terms of the fence, the fact that he hasn't responded to the fencing notice that you've given him doesn't give you the right to go and do the fencing. It still requires a court order. So you either get consent or court order.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, you commit an offence under the Fencing Act by accessing his property without permission. Right?
Oh, okay.
So be careful that. In terms of the other one, I would actually probably... how old's the house next door?
Oh, very old.
Then there may be an issue in relation to whether or not it's a properly functioning septic system. So you might have a talk to the council about the issues arising in the septic system, right? Because I know, for example, if you were to apply for a permit now to construct a house that had a septic, then you would get a permit that would allow it conditional upon you continuing to maintain the septic and getting regular testing done. So have a talk to the local council about the septic issue and see whether they can assist you with an outcome there.
They would surely have an interest in getting that one solved.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, they've got a sewer pipe at the front there. I mean, you can hook it up to sewer. He's just going with the easy way out and running it into
your property.
No,
my view was you would be able to simply create the barrier because he would have no right for the sewer runoff directly across your property. But try and get to... I would be coming along and talking to the council about what you can and can't do.
I think the council would really want to know about that. Thanks for calling in. Amanda in Pakenham, how can we help?
Hi, look, I'm thinking about a problem my daughter has. She's in a private rental by herself in Dandenong. The house had massive issues for repair, which she's been asking to have repaired for about 8 months. She's got 4 months to go on rental. The bathroom floor fell out months ago. All the landlord did was put masonite down hard onto the ground, effectively.
The floor fell out?
Fell out, it fell down. The whole bathroom floor just collapsed. She can't use the bath, only the shower, and she's scared to go in. The house has had massive infestation.
Amanda, here's the question. What does she want to do?
Well, she wants to rent the tenancy, but I'm wondering, she's been paying full market rental. The landlord eventually...
Then I would issue a claim at VCAT seeking a retrospective adjustment to the rent and the bringing to end of the lease agreement.
Okay.
All right? So it's not... given that she's only got 4 months to go, I wouldn't be issuing it VCAT for repairs.
No.
I'd be taking lots of photographs, keeping the paper trail for the complaints being made to the owner or the owner's agent, and I would be issuing it VCAT saying I want the lease to come to an end because the property is not currently habitable, and I want VCAT to fix the rent that I should have been paying while all of this rubbish was going on.
Okay. Has she got any right to compensation because her landlord's insurer's agent came and inspected the place and said it's not fit for human habitation, it can't be repaired?
Amanda, that's where I'm looking at is the adjustment for the rent.
Okay.
Right now, she's clearly had some use of the property, even if it wasn't fully functional.
Yeah.
So, let's pluck some figures out of nowhere. They may have been coming and saying, she may have been paying $100. You might say, well, I want it fixed at $1.
Right.
All right, so that's where you're looking. The compensation will be an adjustment to the rent.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Amanda, good luck. Thanks so much. Julie is in Drysdale. Lovely part of the world. Hi, Julie.
Hi. Yes, good morning. I'm just wondering, is it possible to close, or I believe the term is vest, a family trust which does not have any assets in it without going to a lawyer to get that done? We've done the final tax return 2 years ago and just want to know how to actually close down the trust legally.
Yes, it is. It is quite possible for you to do that, Julie.
Okay.
And you would lead, and the trustee will provide for a vesting day.
Yes.
And the vesting day is usually 80 years from the date that it was created, or it might be, Virginia, in the old days, you could keep a trust going for a life in being plus 21 years.
Right. But can you do it for less than 80 years?
So what the life in being plus 21 years, so what you used to do was the vesting, the period of the trust was the last surviving descendant of Queen Victoria. Right. So because you would normally track the royals reasonably well.
Of course.
But then we brought in this piece of legislation that said, well, but you could fix it for 80 years if you want to.
So does Julie need a lawyer? Can she do this
doesn't.
herself?
So what you will require is, in accordance with the deed, a resolution that it vests on a particular day, and it will then tell and you'll be able to work out who it vests in. That will be the primary beneficiaries.
Right.
And in practical terms, that's it. But if you've lodged the last tax return, you've advised the tax office that there's going to be no further returns ever lodged.
Yes.
You give up your ABN.
Yes.
And you, in practical terms, you could then simply put the trust deed in the drawer because it doesn't own anything, it doesn't do anything.
So essentially just write a minute that says we've vested the trust and sign it.
It requires a resolution of the trustee to vest the trust on a particular day. It may require the consent of the appointor in accordance with the deed.
Oh, yes.
So you could include that as well. Have a look and see what the process is. So my view would be you wouldn't be able to vest without the consent of the appointor.
Okay.
Right, smashing.
But yes,
Lovely.
you can do it without seeing a lawyer.
Julie,
Lovely.
good luck.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
you.
Thanks
Bye.
so much. Helen has called in from Caulfield. Hi, Helen.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Fire away.
It's a tenancy matter. So my landlord gave me verbal notice to move. It was on the, it wasn't very long ago, on the 29th of April to leave on the 2nd of June. I live here as a month-to-month tenant. The lease finished a year ago.
And was there a reason given for the notice to vacate?
No.
Then there's been no compliance with the...
No, but it wasn't even written. It was by... Well,
first of all, it needs to be in writing, and the amount of notice that you need...
By text writing?
Yes, text is writing.
Okay.
But if there's no grounds in the text, then it's not a valid notice.
So text is writing, but you need to have grounds. So how do I go to VCAT at this late stage?
Well, I would be going back to the landlord and say, you haven't given me a valid notice to vacate.
He doesn't care. He simply doesn't care.
And
He's going to demolish it, and he said all the gas and water will be cut off on the 2nd of June.
then I would issue an application at VCAT to confirm that for an order that determined that the tenancy doesn't come to an end on the 2nd of June. And that the landlord needs to continue. Well, vcat.vic.gov.au, you can fill in the online application form and take it from there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, sorry about the situation you find yourself in there. Adrian from Churchill has a lease question as well. Hi, Adrian, what's going on?
Hello, Virginia and David. I have a long-term lease with my local city council for a small parcel of land. It's recently come to my attention...
So is this agricultural land, commercial land?
No, it's actually a hangar site on the local aerodrome.
Yep.
I built a hangar on it, and it's recently come to my attention that the rental I'm paying is significantly above what is allowed for in the lease. The lease states that annual rental increases were to be determined by reference to CPI.
Yes.
When I became aware of this, I went back through my records, and I found that in the year 2011-12, the CPI increase was 2.8%, but my rental increased by 176%. And all subsequent rental invoices have been based on that higher figure. So I contacted the city and advised them of what I'd found and asked them to provide me with information as to why this had occurred. Their reply was that I would have to provide them with an exception to the statute of limitations to seek a review.
Well,
as a result, no further action can be taken to address this review until that evidence is provided.
What's your rent, Adrian?
It started off, the lease started in 2006 at $385 a year.
Yep.
By 2010-11, it had gone to $431. In 2011-12, it went to $1,191.
Adrian, I'm a little bit cautious. I mean, you need somewhere to park the plane. I don't know how much you want to spend on arguing about the plane parking. My view is, and I haven't seen the lease, but let's say, for example, it's a 20-year lease that provides for CPI increases.
25 years.
Okay, then the answer would be for the last 6 years, they've given you wrong rental statements, and as a result, you can have back the overpayment for the last 6 years. Okay. So you can't go back more than 6 years, but you could go back 6 years from today in terms of payments.
Good.
So,
yes. But I'd be satisfied to do that. And,
I understand that, but in 5 years' time, you want somewhere to park your aircraft.
Well, I've actually, the reason I found out about this is that due to my age, I've had to stop flying, and I've sold the hangar and had the lease reassigned through a clause in the lease to the new owner, which means that he will now, for the next 10 years, have to pay if something isn't done.
Adrian, what I want you to do is, from what you've told me, you're entitled to the adjustment.
Yep.
The question is whether the rights belong to the current tenant or you as the former tenant.
Okay, we can work on that together.
Okay.
Good. That sounds like you can reach a resolution there. Well done. Andrew's calling from the CBD. Hello, Andrew.
Oh, hi, David, Virginia. My property has been identified by Cladding Safety Victoria as potentially having flammable cladding on some of its external walls.
Yep.
CSV thoroughly inspected our property inside and out about a year ago, and they said they would produce a report and make decisions about receiving funding to remove and restore the cladding from our property, in about 6 weeks' time. That was back nearly over a year ago.
Yes.
We still haven't received any information about what's happening. Well, we have. They've just said that we're, one of, over 500 properties and we're in the line. I'm just sort of, at my wit's end at the moment. Think, we really need something to happen. Some of the properties, there's some other properties in our areas that are having something happen. They're actually getting their cladding removed. I'm just wondering if you can suggest somewhere else that I can go to help get some progress on this.
I have a great deal of sympathy for the government in this particular one, in that the problems are not of their doing, but the solution appears to be entirely with their responsibility.
Of their inheriting.
Yes. So I suppose you could do that. I would have hoped that whoever's doing this work is doing it on the basis of priority for the greatest need.
Really?
So I said hope. I didn't say I had an expectation. Junior.
Never thought of you as naive before.
You could talk to your local member. You could make a FOI request for information in relation to the work being done in relation to your building.
And I'm going to do a call out for some expert advice. I know that the former Premier Ted Baillieu, good morning, listens to this program regularly, and he is the full bottle on the cladding issue because, of course, he conducted the review. If he's got some advice, Mr Baillieu, you're most welcome to call in as well about where you might go. First places to turn, 1300 222 774. David?
But, Andrew, why would you not make an FOI request to find out where their assessment is in relation to your property? I think that if I was in your building, one of the things I would be really keen to know would be what they've found out about my building before I worked out what they were going to do next.
Isn't there an obligation to share that?
They have that. I did request. Well, I didn't request it through an FIO, but I did request that the report. And after they said that they didn't have to send the report, but they have sent some form of a reducted report. Which I don't think was particularly helpful, but it's very frustrating. It's that they went through the place with a fine-tooth comb. Nearly over a year ago, they said that a report and decision would probably be made in 6 weeks.
Andrew, I really do understand the issue. Sorry, I don't understand your frustration because I don't feel it, but my view would be if I was in a building that had a cladding issue, I would be really, really concerned. Yep. But I do think that I would make the FOI request because you want the data, not just the report.
Exactly. You need to know what you're really dealing with here. Fiona's calling from Gippsland. Fiona, how can we help?
Hi there. Mine's in relation to criminal law, David. So I have an elderly gentleman who was convicted of a sex crime 3 years ago. He had a legal aid lawyer. And once he was convicted and then jailed, the lawyer was not advocating on his behalf in any sense after that, as far as following up healthcare requirements or asking about power of attorney, that kind of thing. We got nowhere and he wouldn't return phone calls. And when I finally got hold of him, he basically said, now he's been convicted and in jail, I'm not representing him. So what I'm wanting to find out is who, if anyone, can advocate for someone who's in jail when they have serious health issues and you're trying to get legal representation on their behalf.
Fiona, first of all, I'd like to point out that the relative he went to legal aid and legal aid engaged a lawyer to look after this person. But there were limits on, this is what I've asked you to do, and it will be to represent your relative in relation to the criminal proceeding, and that will have come to an end at the point of sentencing. Yep. So at the point they took your relative into custody, then the job of the lawyer at that point came to an end. Now, there is, and Virginia and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, there is nobody there who takes on the role of looking after a person who's been taken into custody. So imagine rental premises, who cleans up, who gets the bond back, who gets rid of the furniture, puts goods into storage. The answer is there isn't anybody out there who in a structured way takes on that role, and so it's either family or friends. Yeah,
and someone who cares enough to advocate for him, Fiona.
Yes, and it's simple things. He's actually now terminally ill from what we can tell, and it's simple things like he hasn't seen his wife in 18 months because he's 5 hours away from her, and the jail...
Yeah, I'm afraid that sort of responsibility falls to someone around her to pop her in the car and drive her over. It's
rather than move him. Yeah,
that's right.
If he's terminally ill, then there is a it might be possible to seek a release, who knows, without the details in the question.
But that involves engaging another lawyer.
Yes,
if you
it
then
does.
want to
It
then
does.
say, perhaps make an argument for an early release, then you'll need to go and engage someone else. David, you've got a little bit of homework
I do.
to go away with, and then you and I can celebrate Law Week together next week.
Indeed we can. Thanks.
Good on you. David Whiting there.